Hello.
Hey, Chief, got any pie? Bring me some pie.
The place slightly resembles an insane asylum.
Well, all you need to start an asylum is an empty room and the right kind of people.
It's the kitchen sink.
Prepare to be astonished.
Kitchen sink.
Everything.
The kitchen sink.
Right. Hey, everybody. It's the kitchen sink. Or just kitchen sink no cow. We're here on the interwebs again to bring you some earful pleasure. Meanwhile, Red's fucking doing something.
I'm trying to get my fucking shit up to the fucking to a place that is not so loud.
Oh, you're still wandering around?
I got people that are sleeping,
Oh.
I guess.
Well, shh. And we've got Gear with us, too. She's typing away.
I'm trying to share this show out because I wasn't sure we were going to do this one today. We have another sick co-host.
Hi, Doc.
Because apparently Red gave it to him through the show last week or something, even though they're on opposite sides of the country.
I knew you could get
Dude,
shit
this
like that.
goddamn fucking sickness is it's pretty intense.
It gave him a virus through the internet, dude. For real.
It's not something to mess with. It's fucking crazy.
How long were you sick?
I was sick for about 5 days, I would say.
Jesus.
Damn.
Like, I got sick, like, last Monday, and then I was sick until, like, Friday, at least, and, it was not fun. It was not fun at all.
Well, glad you're feeling better, man.
I'm trying. I'm trying to feel better. Not
Feel
only
better,
for
man.
myself, but for the people around the world.
What's the weather like over there?
The weather?
Yeah.
The weather is a little bit cold, but a little bit frosty.
Hey, that's one of my nicknames for people who don't know.
It's getting warmer over here.
Yeah, it's only going to be 75, like, by Saturday.
Yeah.
No big deal. It's just, February. That's normal. It's fine. It's fine.
Everything's fine. So what are we on about today?
I don't know.
Well, I'm hoping that we can get on about happiness and just good living. What they used to do in the 1960s, 1970s, where they just be like, all about good living.
What are you gonna follow the Grateful Dead now?
I don't got that much fucking ecstasy or LSD. Sorry. I do not have that much fucking hallucinogens. If I did, then I would, but I don't.
So, speaking of hallucinogens, did you manage to catch the State of the Union last night from El Presidente?
I did manage to catch that, and I was thoroughly impressed with his way of speech is quite impressive, I'd have to say.
Why would you say that that's impressive? That the man can speak like a full sentence and then clap for himself, and then speak another full sentence and clap for himself, and then speak another full sentence and then clap for himself.
Oh, and if he says a big word, he gets a standing O.
Doesn't it take a fucking full narcissist to be able to clap for yourself all the... I mean, like, that's pretty impressive. Like, I don't know if I could clap for myself after everything that I said. So, it's pretty... It was so annoying. You're just like...
One of the headlines I saw today said the
No,
president...
shut up, Rachel. Shut up, Rachel. I'm clapping.
I was gonna... While you were clapping, I was gonna, like, say one of the headlines today was the president slow clapped his way through the State of the Union.
Pretty much.
It was kind of interesting how important he thought he was.
He's always thought that.
Without actually doing anything. And then he also commented about how, it was the most watched State of the Union ever, which is not true.
This is actually the first one I haven't watched since, like 1980 something, to be honest, because I didn't want to watch a slow clap, and also I can't stand to look at Paul Ryan's stupid face. Did you see him behind the president the entire night, Red?
Yes,
and he was
it was completely ridiculous. He just sat there with this stupid fucking ridiculous grin that he I don't know what to even say about Paul Ryan. I don't know how he can support a man like Trump. I want to think better of Paul Ryan, but obviously there's nothing good to say about him.
Here's my theory about Paul Ryan. He was the guy that took when you were beating him at Street Fighter, he was the guy that shut the game off.
Yeah, that's probably about right. He's the guy that didn't know how to fucking lose.
No, not at all. He's sad. He's a sad little man, but he's also in charge of a lot of things. And I thought it was quite frightening, even, oh my God, I am in this position where I am like, what's going on with the FBI? And I've been wanting the FBI to be dismantled my entire life.
No shit.
So on one hand, I'm like, wow, this is this is an interesting point to make. I'm actually realizing how brainwashed I am about the institutions of America because they're kind of under threat by this man that I don't care for. It's interesting.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. That doesn't... you have nothing to feel wrong about.
Well, because when Obama was president, I didn't mind Obama. I just felt like he was another puppet of, the United States. And I didn't agree with most of what he did. But at the same time, he wasn't trying to dismantle the FBI. So I kind of felt like it was Obama's FBI, and it's they're supposedly their own entity, but each president does leave their mark, right? Yeah. And that's to be expected, right? But this guy is like asking people who they voted for and then dismissing them, pushing them out. And I'm like, I think just the basic injustice of that as a human being bothers me. But I'm also bothered because I'm seriously trying to decolonize my mind, and I realize how entrenched it is, even though I feel like I'm not entrenched in it. By getting, aghast at the FBI being, attacked, I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on one goddamn second. No. They're terrible people,
I don't know. It's a weird contrast.
Yeah. Right. These people are terrible people, and they're not actually standing up for the positions that they've been put in to, and They're not standing up for the job that the American people expect them to support, and they have left us wanting more, and like I don't even know. Like they have left us wanting for something that that we can't even ask for, because you know, what are we supposed to do as the American people when these people are just getting fired and new people are getting put into these positions by a person that they have complete supreme power, and you don't even have any choice or say in how or who is being represented by you in these huge positions of power.
It's really hard to put into words, dude, right?
So
Very hard.
Should we like elect heads of, you know, 3-letter organizations, or like how what do you do?
Well, I mean, there's so many there's DEA and ATF and FBI and CIA, and it goes on and on and on and on, and it's like, dude, you know, all those people are appointed by people, but this guy, Andrew McCabe, that just was asked, who did you vote for? And the reason that What's-His-Nuts wants to get rid of this guy, or wanted to, was because his wife ran for Virginia state office, which deals with things like roads and infrastructure and like snow plows and school days, you know, the basic nitty-gritty, boring government jobs. And Terry McAuliffe, the governor of Virginia, or ex-governor of Virginia, I don't know, because I haven't been there in a while, donated to her campaign, and he is a friend of Hillary Clinton. So that, to me, it's like...
She run as a Democrat, too?
Yes, and I don't want to live in a place... I mean, this place is already really skewed badly for a large amount of the population. The poor, people of color, you know, sick people, disabled people, it goes on and on and on. But it seems like they're eroding it more and more and more, and we should be progressing rather than regressing as a society, because if you ask people what they want, they don't want this.
Yeah.
The American people don't want this, and what it's come to is these politicians aren't even pretending to care about us anymore until it is election time, and then it's all pillow talk and sweet whispers and Valentine cards and stuff.
Walls and deportations.
Unless you're a Democrat, and then it's a path to citizenship for DACA and, you know, more social services or, you know, infrastructure. I don't know why this president didn't lead with infrastructure, because that was that could have brought those two houses together, right? The two sides together, and been like, okay, he's serious about doing this thing, you know, where we work together. But I mean, what is really frightening is that a lot of these really scary things are happening, and because of the Russia investigation and his tweets and the dumb shit he says, a lot of these things get like thrown by the wayside and get lost in the news cycle, like his attempt to privatize some of the national parks and open it to fracking and drilling and these things. That is happening. That has already happened, you know? We've got Native people occupying Bears Ears and other places, or at least going there to make a stand, you know, and voicing their complaints and whatnot. But, I mean, so many insane things just keep happening one after the other. I mean, 4 or 5, 6, 10 a day where you can't keep up with what's actually going on. And if you think about that objectively, It's wicked smart, yo.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
just throwing up giant smoke screens.
and it's not him. The Republicans are who is wicked smart.
Okay.
He is who he is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you get this buffoon in there who's the lowest approval rating at this particular time in his tenure as president compared to other presidents. He's in the
not according to him though. He has the highest ratings by his standards.
I think he's saying he has historic ratings. Historic lows. I mean, what he does is he gleans the words he likes from what people say to him, and he just uses those words. But he said reciprocity last night, and my jaw was on the floor. I was like, what a big word!
Standing O for that word. Yep.
But anyway,
I guarantee you he doesn't know what that means at all.
If he does, he's completely ignoring the idea of it.
Well, if he did understand what it means, he wouldn't have used it in the first place because it has absolutely nothing to do with his fucking establishment or what he has done at all because nobody fucking cares about. He has no reciprocity.
reciprocity, darling.
Recipes?
Yes. He has no recipes for that fucking word.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think that man even knows how to use a frying pan.
I've seen it used to beat people over the head on the TV. Is that what they're for?
It just seems like the whole entire country is so incredibly divided by...
I want somebody that he's a businessman and he knows how to run businesses, and he works with a lot of money, so he knows how to run businesses. And America's like a business, you know.
No, it is not.
And you gotta run America like a business.
Not like his businesses,
the
though.
other big corporation, because when you run America like a corporation, like a big business, then you'll have good business aesthetics, and then America will start working properly when you run it like a business. That's what America should be run like, business like. From a guy that runs all of his business into
the ground. Yep.
And I still want to get my friend Bobby on over here because he was telling me a lot of stuff that makes so much sense about Fred Trump and how he just doesn't like his son.
I want to hear that dude's story.
Oh, by the way, there's a new show that is perfection. It's so funny. It's called Our Cartoon President.
Oh, God.
And it is about life in the White House right now. It's really funny. It was created partially by Stephen Colbert. So, Colbert.
It was great.
It's really good. Funny show. I don't know. I lost my train of thought because there's so much going on. I don't know if you guys saw, the reporters are getting hip to Trump. All they're doing is, like, when they catch him in a hallway or, anywhere where he'll answer questions, they're not going, Mr. President, tell us about this. They're like, hey, I bet you could do better,
God.
So they basically goaded him into saying that he was smarter than Hillary because she didn't testify under oath, and he was gonna because he's better than her.
Whoa.
So he's looking forward to talking to the special counsel, and he's gonna do it under oath because crooked Hillary wouldn't do it,
And all of his advisors have told him, No, that's probably not a good idea.
Oh, his lawyers walked that shit back like that, man. They were like, what are you No! And then I found this quote from one of their lawyers. It may have been Don McGahn, who, by the way, the White House counsel, Don McGahn, is also in an 80s rock band, maybe a cover band. And he's in an 80s cover band.
Don McGahn.
And they play around DC, and I saw him shred some "Don't Stop Believin'" on the guitar, and he's pretty damn good.
Really?
So I will say that about White House counsel Don McGahn.
Just to say, I did go to a good live rock band show last night. I saw
Corrosion
of Conformity, and I saw Black Label Society last night, and also Red Fang.
Whatever.
It was a great show, and a lot of good music, and a lot of just amazing freaking rock.
Well, we saw Corrosion of Conformity, and James Hetfield from Metallica came out on stage and played Vote with the Bullet and 3 or 4 other songs with them. And that, my friend, was the tits.
That was the tits.
That sounds amazing.
Unbelievable. They played with Clutch and somebody else. So, Corrosion...
Clutch is supposed to be playing with...
Oh, he's over there. Fuck.
Yeah, Clutch is supposed to be playing with...
Wait, I just did the press release.
Red Fang this next tour.
That's where I found Red Fang, was at the place called The Crazy Donkey on Long Island in 2009. I had seen them the night before in Poughkeepsie at the Chance. Very good show. That's how I found Red Fang, personally. And if you guys haven't heard Red Fang, that's a really good, band. I love them. They're good boys.
I have to say, when I saw the Red Fang opened up the show, and then Corrosion of Conformity was on next, and then
BLS,
Zakk Wylde and freaking Black Label Society finished the show, but those two opening bands really killed it. And
Corrosion's great. It's one of my favorite bands of all time.
I really thought that the first two bands played better than even Black Label Society. I hate to say that, but I thought the first two bands, Corrosion of Conformity and Red Fang, were amazing. They fucking put on a show and they fucking rocked it.
Corrosion's great. Been one of my favorite bands since the mid 80s, dude. I love those dudes. They used to be punk, actually. You would like some of their earlier stuff.
They did. They played a lot of their earlier stuff. And
No. They're really early shit. There's like 3-second songs, that kind of shit, What was I going to say? We saw Zach Sabbath, which is Zakk Wylde doing Black Sabbath, when they opened for Clutch the year before, or like 6 months before. We saw that show with Corrosion. So Clutch and BLS like to tour together too. We saw JD from Black Label play bass with Clutch, doing a really cool version of Space Grass. We have devolved into music, you guys. It's what we do.
It was a great show, I just gotta say. I was very impressed with the music.
Yeah, you're in a great place for shows, though, So there's that.
I can't complain. I really can't complain. So I'm happy to be where I'm at right now, and I'm hoping that I get to see a few more.
Well, I have your dog.
Yeah.
On that note, I'd like all of us to, and I want to kind of promo this, Red Fawn Phallus, who was at Standing Rock, and was charged with discharging a firearm in a scuffle with some of the Dapple Goons / Morton County police.
Liars.
She's had to plea to a lesser charge in order to make sure she doesn't go to jail for life. So I want to focus on that either next week or the week after. So if you guys want to like look into that case, I'll send you links and whatnot. And if anybody has any questions, I'm at xdevastatedx on Twitter. You can always hit me up on Twitter. And Red has a lot of tweets that I have personally tweeted him lately, but I know he doesn't go on Twitter very often.
I have a lot of tweets.
Yeah, you do, because I've been tweeting at you.
No, I barely ever look at him. I'm sorry.
Oh, there went that.
Oh.
And what we've decided to do, and we won't be able to do it this week, but we've decided to do a replay of the show on Friday nights on Facebook Live, just with audio. So in case people missed it on Thursday, we'll be doing a Facebook Live where we do like live commentary as well, and we answer questions and whatnot. So that's our plan going forward, at least.
So figure out how to do it.
Once we get everything sorted out in the next like 2 or 3 weeks. And I will be replaying the Lewis show with all of the Native American culture from this area where we are here, the Pitt River, and some of the other tribes in this, the Winnemem Wintu and whatnot, talking about their struggles. And it was just such a great show that I want to start with that one, because I think that's the best show we've done in this iteration of Kitchen Sink anyway.
Great. That was a great show. I wasn't able to be on the last show, and we're missing Doc on this show. But that's because of the terrible sickness that's going around. Everybody has been sick recently, so... You
know, I saw something that I wanted to kind of reiterate, because in my other alter life, I was a teacher for about 15, 16 years. And one of the things that people need to remember is that if you have the flu, or you think you're getting the flu, stay your happy ass home, because that's how that shit gets spread. The flu is airborne. It spreads through, even if you're not coughing in people's directions, it's just there in the air. So if you are sick,
spread by breathing.
Right. It doesn't make you look tough or, admirable to struggle through a day when you have the flu. I'm going to modify this with, there are also people who cannot miss a day of work because of the system that we are oppressed by. But if you are in a situation like myself or other people who have a pretty open schedule, or you have sick days, please use them, because that's how you get everybody in your office sick. And guess what? Then it mutates and you get it again.
Yeah.
It's true. That is very true.
That's a good PSA. That's a great PSA. I've always thought that. Just fucking stay home. If you're sick, don't get away from me. I don't even want to work with you now.
Because you can wash your hands all day long, but you're still going to get the flu if your coworker has it and you are maybe not feeling great, haven't eaten the right thing, aren't hydrated, haven't slept, any of those things can lead to that. And I really, as a teacher, I would have people bring their children to school with a temperature because it wasn't 100. And the kid is absolutely miserable. This is like a 4 or 5-year-old kid, right? I taught Head Start for a very long time, which is basically being a kindergarten teacher. You have to have all kinds of certifications. You have to go through all kinds of training, which, happens every Friday, by the way.
You're a brave woman. I would not fucking do any of that.
I love children.
4 or 5. Woo!
They were actually, I had some 3-year-olds as well. 3, 4, and 5 were my... mostly I did, I really like to teach, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, because I don't have to change diapers, but we'd have parents who would, and they didn't work. This is a parent that just doesn't work, a mom who is affluent or just doesn't feel like having the kid, needs a break, and moms need a break sometime, but not when your baby is sick. Do not send your sick baby to school, because all those other babies are now sick, and I'm sick, and now we have to get a substitute teacher who goes and ruins my curriculum. So, I mean, it's a ripple effect that goes on and on and on, and it has some serious lasting effects. So, just use your brain. If you're sick, go back to bed where you belong and get better.
Oh, shit.
I'm done.
It doesn't make any sense. That's your government society telling you have to go to work.
Yep.
You have to get this job done. You have to do this because otherwise you're going to get fired. And it's disgusting. And
It is.
It's terrible because all it does is perpetuate more sickness, and it makes you feel worse, and it only makes it just makes everything worse.
Plus, how productive are you going to be if you are someone who works at an office job who's writing proposals or doing something that requires you to think creatively in any kind of job? If you have to think creatively when your head's literally, your brain's on fire from a fever,
Yeah.
and your bones are all achy and you're sneezing and coughing and you have a headache, you won't be able to be effective. So there's that. And it is disgusting that we live in this society where single moms can't take a day off work if their kid is sick, and I get that. That happened a lot. And in which case, I would try to isolate the child from the other children and take care of that child because I knew what was going on, but I didn't like it. I would prefer that, when my kids were sick when they were little, they went to their grandmothers, Sorry, Mom, they're sick, but I have to go to work for this presentation.
Yeah.
Or I'd be like, hey, my kids are sick, not coming in.
Exactly.
But it is
There's no
still...
reason to put your kids out there and try to infect other people that don't need to be infected. It's a systematic detriment of the society that people keep on perpetuating. That is not necessary, and you shouldn't go to work when you are sick or when you feel like shit just to make a little bit of fucking money or try to make that paycheck because all it does is make everybody around you detrimental to your sickness, and it's only going to make things worse in your society and your environment.
And, it's all this whole... it's a symptom of a very sick society. It's a symptom of a society that has always and probably will always value profit over people. And
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
hoping, my hope is with some of my generation, Generation X, and then some of the millennial generation, that we will say no to a lot of that and try to make a better society. And just, I know it seems trivial to talk about this kind of thing, but if you think about the underlying causes of this and why single moms need to go to that job, even if it's a part-time job, even if it's only $50, because if they lose that money and they don't have sick time because the evil corporation that they work for...
$50 doesn't seem like a lot to a lot of people.
It's a lot of money to me.
$50.
But
To
also...
a single mother, to a person that doesn't have a lot of money, $50 is your freaking... That's your rent. That could be your rent money. That could be the money that you pay to keep your electricity on. That could be the money to keep your heat bill going. Like, $50 can be a lot.
Could be the difference...
A lot of people don't realize that.
Sorry. I was just going to say it could be the difference between you and your kids eating or just your kids eating. For 2 weeks.
$50 huge.
And also, it's the underlying evil corporation that person most likely works for. Say you've got a single mom who works at Walmart. She is only allowed to work between 24 and 32 hours a week. If she's lucky, she's at 32, right? That means they don't have to pay benefits. That means she doesn't have any time off that's paid. It's all unpaid time off. There's no sick days when you're a part-time employee.
Yeah.
And that is a travesty. When you are a human being, you should have inherent rights to sick days because you're working. If you are working and you're giving your time to a corporation, they should be invested enough in you to know that life happens. And there's going to be days that you have a family emergency. You have a fever. Your child has a fever. Your elderly mother needs to be taken to the doctor. Things of that nature. And you can't always schedule these things, first of all. Secondly, why should you have to schedule these things around an evil corporation that is making billions and billions and billions of dollars for their shareholders, and they won't pay you a living wage so that you can feed your family and maybe take a hit by not going to work one day so you can care for your sick self, child, mother, etc.
But, you know, if a shift needs covering, then they expect you to do that for them.
Right.
On the fly. Reciprocity.
There is none. Oh, and also some of these corporations are the types that will sign you up for life insurance, not tell you, and then take it when you die instead of giving it to your benefactors.
Or, like, you know, they'll...
Look into Walmart. That happened.
They'll charge you a fee for, you know, paying bills that you have for you and not tell you about it. That's always cool. You know. Those withholding orders, they charge you to do that, even though you can't pay it yourself.
About it. You're getting freaking charged for things that you didn't even know that you had. That makes no sense at all.
It makes perfect sense. Unfortunately, it's the bottom line, and if you look at what just happened in, you know, the heart of evil, Washington, D.C., this tax scam bill really, really benefited the rich. And it will give us maybe a short-term reprieve, but in the end, it's going to really, really benefit the top, like, 1% of the 1%. I mean, not just the rich, but the uber rich.
Mega, super, ultra rich, yeah.
It's disgusting. Bernie Sanders did a State of the Union response. I would recommend everybody to watch it because he makes some good points. I know that some people have some issues with Bernie Sanders, and I get that. Nobody's perfect. At least the man is working.
People don't like socialism. People think Bernie Sanders is a socialist, but what the fuck have we been living under for all of our lives? Anybody that is under 30, 40, 50 years old has been living under socialism because that's what you call social society. And we have a social government, and most people don't realize that our democratic government is a social democratic government.
It's more of a kakistocracy right now, which means that it's being run by people who have no idea what they're fucking doing. But it's also there are socialist aspects of our country, like the Veterans Administration or Veterans Affairs, Social Security, Medicare.
Exactly. You got all these fucking programs that are set up that are socialist programs, and nobody wants to say that they are socialist programs, but that's exactly what they are.
They just need to expand them. I mean, what's the fucking problem?
we're one of the only large governments in the world that doesn't have free health care. Almost, 20, 30 free governments in the world have socialized fucking health care, except for the United States. It's fucking ridiculous, and it's disgusting, because if anything, that is one of the only things that we should be striving for.
Yeah.
So here's something that I really...
A way for people to be able to have good health care, be able to not be afraid to go to the doctor. I'm afraid to go to the doctor because I don't want to spend so much money. But if...
Check this out. I've been wanting to bring this up, and this is a perfect segue. The World Health Organization, or WHO, ranks the world, each government in order of best to last in healthcare. Number 1 is France, which I was surprised by. France is number 1. Then it goes down the list, and you get places that you would expect, like Japan, Norway, but you also get places like Luxembourg and Oman and Malta and Ireland and Colombia, and we're nowhere near the U.S. yet. Okay? Saudi Arabia is way, way above the United States. Cyprus, Belgium, Israel, Morocco. Costa Rica is directly above the United States. The U.S. comes in as 37th in the world. And right underneath us is Slovenia,
That
Cuba.
might be a bit generous.
Places like that. So I don't want to hear about when people talk. There's been an argument that I've seen on Twitter lately about some people were going to Cuba to get health care, not in the 90s, and everyone's like, Cuba's a shithole, you know, emulating our incredibly lovely president. And I'm like, it's only like 2 behind us in healthcare. Slovenia is right above it, and we're right above Slovenia. So there's that. Morocco beats us, y'all. Morocco. And then, of course, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Switzerland, you know, Germany. But that's pretty interesting. Greece and Iceland beat us. Luxembourg again. It's funny to me. The worst place in the world is Myanmar. So there's that. But, I mean, really, we have nothing to fucking brag about when it comes to our healthcare system.
Or education.
Or education. We're terrible in education, too.
The education system is a joke. Like, for being one of the top, for claiming to be a superpower in the world, we should be educating people left and right, but our education system is one of the least, it is so lackadaisical that it's ridiculous.
One of the least effective?
There is no education in the American society. They would rather dumb us down than actually teach us anything. And that's what's scary about our system of things.
And that's also, I believe, as a parent, and I am a parent, between the two of us, we have quite a few children, we live in a shoe. I spend and have spent a lot of time educating my children on why gas is expensive, why the water is gone, and what happened here, and how does this government work, and where, of course, do they come from in respects to being an indigenous human being, to, you know, Tennessee, etc. But I have always believed that you need to play an active role in your child's education, and not just like being a PTA parent. That's just a social connection. I mean by sitting down with your kid.
Make friends with your local freaking parents.
What?
That way you can go, oh, it's so nice to be able to meet somebody that is that thinks the way that I do, and you're also white, and you're also freaking, it's a bullshit fucking PTA.
Yeah, no.
It's bullshit.
No, you sit with your child, you ask them what they learned, you tell them the extra parts that are missing in those lessons, you know? You ask them what they know. I would, when we would drive around, I would ask my kids what they know about this or that, and I'd be like, well, I think that you probably should know this part too, because without this part, you're not going to understand the big picture. And we taught the kids to critically think. You know, that's an important part, because that's not something that you are taught in this day and age, in this country.
Should be.
Well, most scientists have determined that most children are geniuses from the time that they're born. But it's because of the way that society and the way that the government teaches our children and dumbs them down, it creates dumb fucking people. And they're purposely trying to dumb people down. That way they don't have to deal with smart, educated, free-thinking people, because it isn't beneficial for a society that moves forward. If you have a society that's free-thinking, then you can't move forward. You need a society that's easily moldable and is easily malleable, so that way you can control them.
Right. It's like if you think about the Dark Ages, or or way back when only certain people were allowed to know how to read. I mean, that way they could control the narrative 100%. It was easy to spook people, and therefore easy to control them by damning their internal soul unless they did what they were supposed to do. And most kings were divine people, I mean, that's the way they got away with that for so long.
They were blessed by the church. That's why.
No, they were not just blessed by the church, Eric. They were ordained by God himself.
Yep.
According to all of the history I've read, anyway.
Yes, exactly.
But there's also, going back to your point about, the society that dumbs its people down, it's easy for the quote-unquote leaders of that society to get away with things because they wrap it in boring, and then it's all insidious in the middle, Nobody wants to watch C-SPAN. Nobody wants to read the transcripts of what happened in the House or the Senate. Nobody cares about that because it is boring. It's really boring, and it's tedious, and it takes forever to sift through all that stuff. But
it's way easier for somebody to watch 5 minutes or 2 minutes of freaking social media network. And that's the problem with our society and social media. It's made everything so in your face, quick and easy. It's popcorn fucking media. You just freaking nobody researches anything on their own, and you just believe everything at face value for what is being told to you, and whether it's true or not.
That's what's happening too, and that's why our society, I believe, is so divided, because I believe there's a group over here that are going, the facts are the facts, bro. Like, I don't like them either, but there they are. And then there's this other group going, no, that's not the fact because I saw this on Facebook or Twitter, or the president said something, or the politician said something.
And then you have somebody like the president going, oh, well, that's fake news. You can't believe that. That's not real. And when you have somebody that is constantly discrediting real news and real fucking statements, then how are you to believe anything?
Critical thinking. Research it for yourself.
Exactly.
Look at all the stories, find the commonalities, and glean the truth from that. And that is how I've always done stuff, but that's not how we're taught to do it. I've done that because
anybody's taught to do anything anymore these days.
And you know what?
Taught how to critically think or how to look up information for themselves or to research anything. They just believe everything at face value.
I don't think it's just today. I don't because I think I knew a lot of people, not I think, but I did know a lot of people in the 90s when I was in school who did the same thing. They would just believe whatever was given them, you know? Yeah. It's just that the information is so much more proliferated now and it's easy to access. And if you've got...
Sure.
If you subscribe to all your favorite little news outlets that are on the on Facebook that are like conservative pages.
If that's all you ever listen to, then that's what you're going to believe.
Right. It's either conservative pages. I've seen insanity from both sides, and I'm trying to go, look, guys, come on. The simplest theory must be true. It's Occam's razor here. You can't it's not the fucking deep state. The deep state is the FBI and the CIA and the government. The government is the deep state. What the hell are you talking about?
When you have the president of the United States firing every person in power from these different organizations like the FBI that are supposed to be exposing these untrue things or whatever false ideologies, then who are you to believe anymore?
Right.
You can't believe what the president says anymore. You can't believe what anybody says anymore. You have to research on your own and research as deep as you can because it's also convoluted.
Here's what I think people should do. If you completely agree with that article and it says everything you wanted to hear, it's probably got some flaws. Right? You gotta just look at stuff in a different way. So that's just my idea. We're gonna wrap up the show, but I wanted to end with this because this is crazy shit that just happened. The oldest son of the late Cuban leader Fidel Castro killed himself today.
Whoa.
After months of treatment for depression. He was 68. Fidel Castro Diaz-Balart had been in a deeply depressed state. A brief note read on state television that his treatment had required hospitalization and then outpatient follow-up. He was known for his nickname, Fidelito, or Little Fidel, and he served as a scientific advisor to the Council of State and was vice president of the Cuban Academy of Sciences. So that's very sad. I always hate to hear that somebody has lost their battle with depression. Depression is a very real and very painful
look at
thing.
Somebody like that has been raised and brought up to
in power,
power, and been raised to create and run a country, run a organization and a government. And then they decide to kill themselves. I mean, what does that tell you about the pressure and the craziness behind that kind of thought process. It's insanity.
It's depression, and it's a terrible lack of some. For me, it's a lack of a chemical in my brain, and when I am on my medication, I find that I don't have the giant mood swings as much, the ups, the downs, and I'm not prone to the long bouts of depression. I still have depressive episodes, but I'm not prone to the like weeks of depression that I used to be. And when you're dealing with your mental health, I talk about it openly because I feel like a lot of people should, especially people with strong voices. When you're dealing with this, you have to watch it. You have to make sure that it's still working after a time. You have to be under a doctor's care. You know, you have to talk openly to them. You don't have to divulge all your details. You only divulge what you want to, but you have to be honest with them and say, this isn't working, you know, which happened to me. The first medication I tried, I didn't have any side effects. It just didn't work. This one works, and I'm not having the huge dips and, you know, also the huge highs. I would have these huge highs followed by huge lows. So mental illness is not anything to be ashamed of. It's basically, you know, a chemical imbalance. And once you find the right thing, you can combat it, especially if you have massive depression with therapy and having someone to talk to. That's paramount. So, you know, just know that there's hope, because I've spent my life in depression, and I've didn't really attack it until my late 30s, and I wish I had earlier. But again, it was very taboo back then.
It's hard to talk about those things with people. Yeah, it's very true. And it was taboo for a long time because people would just tell you to suck it up and to fucking deal with it. And that's not healthy for anybody.
Or you were crazy, you know. Or you're dramatic or overreacting or any of the iterations of whatever. And I find that people, especially people close to you, who react like that, like parents and family members like that, it's because they wanted their kid to be perfect, not because they're trying to be mean, but just because everybody wants their kids to be okay, you know? Yeah. So it's hard for parents to deal with that too, and they have to understand and learn to live with it and understand it and deal with it too. It's a process for the whole family.
Yeah.
Truly. So, I mean, and it's so common. It's so common in our world that we all need to be talking about it and dealing with it. And, you know, the people who are comfortable talking about it. If you don't want to divulge anything, you don't need to either, you know? I always want to do those qualifiers, you know, because I don't want to trigger somebody, because I know, like, even a slight... Seriously. Weird word for me can piss me off for like an entire week. It gets that way sometimes. I'm also, you know, a hot-headed Native American woman.
Don't give up on your mental health, people.
Don't. There's been some bad stuff.
And if you know somebody, don't give up on their mental health either.
And please don't do fentanyl. Please don't do fentanyl.
Don't fucking do fentanyl, no.
Oh my God, don't do fentanyl. Everyone is just ODing from this stuff. It's terrifying. And that's one thing that I did not hear anything about in the State of the Union, was the opioid epidemic.
I think he mentioned it briefly.
Not long enough.
Oh, no.
That should have been a big... It's a huge national health crisis.
Yeah. They're all on opioids, you know.
So, I say the remedy for that is marijuana. Cannabis can help. You know?
Yep. Not fucking Suboxone or fucking...
Do not do Suboxone!
Take another goddamn pill to stop taking pills. I don't get that.
Stop going to freaking methadone clinics to get off your freaking opioids. I don't understand that either. Like, drugs are bad. Drugs are fucking bad. But
They are.
like taking more pharmaceutical drugs to get off your street drugs ain't gonna help you.
No.
I don't know. I've never seen that help anybody.
Oh, opioids help me a whole lot. Because if I have breakout pain, I really need them. The machines help the most. And I do want to talk at some point in depth about, and I want to bring on some of my pain buddies. We have a network. It's really important when you have a devastating disease to have like-minded people that you can talk to about it, because even caretakers and family members don't always understand, exactly what you're going through. So I want to bring on some of them and talk about this in depth, because a lot of people use opioids for breakout pain and other things for not, mostly like Lyrica or gabapentin for the nerve pain that we all experience. And these diseases are serious, fucked up diseases that are incurable. So you're between a rock and a hard place, right? And I do know people who use methadone as a pain pill so that they don't have to take the opioids, because they can just take like one of those a day, and that works for them. There's just a whole bunch of different things. But when we started passing out Norco and Vicodin and all that stuff, oxycodone for people who fell down the stairs and twisted their ankle, that's when Americans began to become pussies, in my humble opinion. Because
they became addicts. They didn't become pussies.
No, we're all whining about everything, and they're all hysterical because they're off their meds and they don't have any more, and they're all on a come down.
When you become an addict and you are addicted to something, and it changes the way you look at your whole life.
I just think that there's a lot of people who have addictive brains, and there are people who don't.
Well, I think a lot of people didn't even know they had addictive brains,
Nope.
or even were
until they took that first.
Problem with addiction, but they were given these drugs that are so addictive that all of a sudden they become addicts, and they didn't even know. They don't know how to deal with it. Nobody knew how to tell them what to do with that. Because all of a sudden you broke an arm, or you had a pain or whatever, and your doctor prescribed you this opioid, and now all of a sudden you are addicted to fucking
absolutely
a chemical that is just as strong as heroin. And then when you can't afford it anymore because it's expensive as shit, you go onto the street trying to find your fucking fix.
Yep. And to be fair, a lot of those stories that I've read about were people who had like a back surgery and were on them for 3 months or something. And, but there were other stories about people who took a pill and then it was over.
Yeah.
It's just over because they had an addictive brain. They didn't know it because they weren't drinkers or partiers or whatever, but they got hurt. And
no, that's true.
It's been
a lot of people didn't even know, and you take one pill, and it's weird. Some people just have very addictive personalities.
It's just a different brain.
Something like an opioid, which is a very addictive substance. Some people like that. That's it. That all you need is just one hit, and you're done.
And I think we have to lay the blame directly at the feet of the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors, because they push these pills. Like I keep saying, my cousin fell down 4 stairs. She bumped her tailbone. She didn't break it. She bumped it. And she had a guy giving her 12 a day for falling down the stairs and bump. And this went on for a year.
Jesus.
Before he got busted. He was actually the guy here in the north end of the county.
Sunshine or something?
I think his name was Dr. Smith, and
Yeah.
he was just passing them out like candy. People like that are the people really to blame, who are like, oh, hey, yeah, you fell down here, have this. And then they're just making money off of these people, because a lot of these people in that particular clinic would come in and pay cash for their visit because their insurance, Medi-Cal, wouldn't cover that because it's a narcotic, and Medi-Cal will not cover narcotics. You have to pay that on your own, right? So these people are coming in and paying cash, hand over fist to this guy, and he's just passing them out like candy. All of a sudden you have an entire population of heroin addicts, and the city, county leaders are like, I don't know what happened.
Oh, it's completely fine because it's pharmaceutical and it's passed out by a doctor that is licensed.
Oh no, he got busted. He got busted.
Yeah, I understand that, but most of the time it doesn't matter because
most of the time it's a 10-day prescription that people get addicted. You know, a lot of people because what science is now finding out is there are two different kinds of brains. There are people with addictive brains and there are people with non-addictive brains. So one person can have one drink, and that's like, okay, that was a nice glass of Chardonnay. And another person can have one drink and go, wow, I'm going to drink until I'm fucked up. You know, like straight up right now, I'm going to pound these until they're gone. Right?
Well, I have to tell you that I have an addictive brain. I am a person with an addictive personality. But I know that about myself.
I disagree.
And I've learned that about myself, and I have to be conscious with myself because I could easily fall into that loop of taking drugs and falling into that terrible that whatever
the
that
trap.
drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to do, but once if you know that about yourself, I've been a drug addict before, so I know that about myself. So once you know that about yourself, you can actually pull yourself out of it. But it's
Here's
not
what
easy.
I'm trying to say to you.
Not an easy thing to do.
I have known you for a very, very long time, and I think you have habits rather than an addictive personality.
Habits, yes.
I believe
Habits
that you do not have an addictive brain, because I don't know anybody who can smoke one cigarette and then not smoke another one for another 6 months and then maybe want to have another cigarette.
Right.
You know, most people smoke consistently who smoke. So, I think that you have habits, and I think a lot of people have habits like that where they think that maybe they have a problem, and maybe some of us do things to excess. And I think that's maybe also a conditioning of America to do things to excess. You know, I mean, if I'm an interesting person because I've grown up in very odd places, and we all are very interesting people because we all kind of can look at the place we live in objectively from kind of above, and see like the differences between the different types of people in this country, and how easily it is for some people to get led and how easily it is for other people to say, fuck you. You know, I don't know. I think that when it comes to the opioid thing, what is going to happen and what is consistently happening is that the people who use them in moderation because they have an incurable disease are not going to be able, it's going to be consistently more stressful to deal with getting your medication from the pharmacy. The doctor has already prescribed these things. The pharmacy is under super scrutiny from the DEA. And I think, again, they're looking in the wrong place. It's very weird the way we do things, and it seems that the war on drugs method is being used once again, and we know that was a failure.
Just punishing the victims again.
We're punishing the patients again.
Yeah.
And there are people who need these drugs.
Instead of punishing the people that are pushing these things,
Right.
they punish the people that are getting these things pushed on. And that is disgusting.
It's just typical corporate behavior
It's
once
wrong.
again,
It's
you know.
wrong because these people are victims, honestly. And
Yeah. They are.
and it's not their fault for having the sickness or having pain, but they are getting repercussions because of the way that they're being pushed with these drugs and these addictions that become not their fault, but their doctor's fault for prescribing them to them.
You know, I actually asked my doctor straight up because the reason I have, if you don't know, I have complex regional pain syndrome. It's a sympathetic nervous disorder. It's the highest rated pain complex on Earth on the McGill pain scale. It's rare. I have it throughout most of my body, my hands, and from my hips down. And sometimes in my eye, which is new, and I'm not a fan of that. But I have been on narcotics off and on for about 15 years. And I started out at a really high dose because I didn't have health insurance, and that was the only thing they could do for me was just load me up with drugs. So
I yell at you all the time about it.
yeah, I know. And
I hated seeing you so doped up all the time.
and you know what has happened is subsequently I've had many procedures to kill some of the nerves. I've had 2 machines put in my back, and I asked my doctor straight up. I was like, am I an addict? Because I'm very worried about this. And he said, I work in this office every day with thousands of addicts, and you are not one of them. You are physically dependent on this drug. If we had to take you off of it, we'd have to stagger you down, but you would be fine without this drug. We could get you off of it. It wouldn't be a problem. So they've taken me like way, 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 way down. And if
I've
don't...
seen you without certain narcotics, and you function just fine. It's not like you crave these things. You want them because they make you feel better, but it's not that it's not that you want them in your life because you what's the word for it? Because you think that you need them. It's because it actually makes you feel happier, and it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
For your life, and that's something that's difficult to deal with, because when you have so much pain, you can't explain that to anybody else. Like, you can't explain pain to somebody else when nobody else knows what you're actually going through.
It's difficult to explain pain to people, and it's difficult to explain why I have to use certain medications, but I also am at a point where I know what I'm doing is right, so I don't have to justify myself to other people. I just like to use myself as a good example of someone who uses narcotics, has used narcotics, and when I run out of them, I don't go spend my last money, from my paycheck finding more
on
drugs.
the street looking for heroin.
No, I would never. I'm never doing heroin. I've never done heroin. I never would. And I would never use fentanyl. And I don't, unless I have like a massive flare that's going on, that's when I really need those meds. You know what I mean? Because I rely on the nerve medications far more than anything else. Those are the ones that really help me as a patient with a sympathetic nervous disorder, feel better. So my doctor and I also work on things like breathing techniques, trying to meditate because my mind's always going, you know, trying to calm myself. He actually said to me the other day, you do everything that I want you to do. You go outside, you do stuff like drawing and painting, you use your mind, you know, you work part-time, which most people with this condition just won't. And that, I think, is up to the person, but it's also helpful for me because it distracts me from my pain. So I do want to do a big show on this. It's just, it's an important subject because there are so many people with invisible illnesses, and especially these nerve illnesses that just they're terrifying. And science doesn't know too much about them because they're just now starting to understand the brain and the sympathetic nervous system and how it all works together. So, I don't know, y'all. I think it's time for us to say goodbye. Are you?
It's time to say goodbye. Say goodnight.
Nighty night. We will be back next week. Yeah, with more goodness, more random weird shit.
More random weird shit. It's the sink, man. That's what we do.
Sink.
Talk about nonsense, yo.
All right. Later.
Welcome to good night.
What?
Welcome to good night.
Exactly.
Welcome to You Are Doom. Yes. No.
Welcome to You Are Going to Bed.
I am not. It's only 9:26 here.
Yep.
But thank you all for listening. And
See you
have a
next
good
week.
night. See you next week.
The kitchen sink. With gear.
There was just kittens and fucking puppies and rainbows and bunnies. Bad.
How can you edit out a Pegasus?
Red.
I like unicorns.
And Doc.
Loose cannon! What have you got yourself into, man?
Everything.
And the kitchen sink.
Just sitting around, freaking hanging out.
You know,
It's kind of like the Newsweek.
there's not much going on
It
in
was
the
just
news.
the news was just kind of hanging out.
You know, I've thought that the president being investigated by the FBI was kind of normal. You know, that's happened before,
It
hasn't it?
has.
That's happened before,
That makes
right?
it normal. Yeah, that happened before.
The kitchen sink.
Thursdays at 8 p.m.